In a world overflowing with distractions, we seek meaning. How do we transform ambition into something deeper, into true fulfillment? I'm Sam Pepin, CEO of Course Educa, and I've spent years helping businesses succeed by connecting their goals to something bigger. On the Meaningful podcast, we explore not just how to win in business, but how to grow as individuals. Through conversation with thought leaders, innovators, and everyday heroes, we uncover the stories that drive us towards something greater. Whether you're striving for success, seeking purpose, or just looking for the next steps in your journey, this podcast is your guide to navigating the intersection of ambition, growth, and meaning. So please join me and our incredible guests as we redefine what's possible in both business and life. Enjoy.
Marketing is simply the act of giving. When you give value first, the return takes care of itself. Welcome to the Meaningful Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Pepin. Today we're diving into servant leadership in marketing, creating genuine human connection through digital outreach, and how generosity can drive both growth and fulfillment. Our guest today is Timothy Morgan, founder and CEO of the Giver Marketing Network, a movement dedicated to helping mission-driven entrepreneurs and organizations elevate their message with clarity and integrity. With years of experience leading one of the most trusted marketing communities for small business owners, Timothy has helped countless leaders align their marketing with their values, proving that service and success are not opposites, but allies. His work continues to inspire a new generation of marketers to lead with heart, purpose, and measurable impact. If you enjoyed this discussion, please let the world know with a like, a small review, or even a quick share. Your support helps more people find meaningful content just like this. Let's begin.
Mr. Timothy Morgan, welcome on the Meaningful Podcast. How are you doing?
Great. Man, it's always good to talk with you, Sam.
It's always fantastic talking with you as well. And it's actually been a while. I'm very glad to have you on the podcast because you definitely deserve it. But to kick us off, tell us more about the Giver Marketing Network.
Yeah, I like to share a little story of how it began. I was a marketing professional working with clients as a coach, having sessions weekly or monthly, depending on what they needed. Results were booming. Everything was going great. Then I looked in the mirror one day and I realized, wait a minute, I'm a lonelypreneur in the marketing space. I might be a highly rated coach, but I need a team. I need a community. I need a tribe. I need some kind of group to be a part of. Of course, thinking bigger and expanding and those kind of things. I started connecting with amazing people, a lot like you, Sam, just people who love to collaborate, connect, work in teams, work well with others, emotionally, relationally intelligent. And based on a few conversations, we decided to form a cohort. Little did we know it would grow from 5 to 25 to 50 to 100, now 150 members in this group of more of a collective of professionals who try to team up together and go after larger projects in order to make a bigger impact. And so that's the Giver Marketing Network today, but it really started in a small restaurant in Northern California.
There we go. It's interesting you mentioned the loneliness aspect of it. There's this big mentality of the grind, right? The grind of just, hey, we need to do more, we need to be more, perhaps we need to expand this. For you mentioned that you sort of had this moment where it sort of came to you. Do you recall that specific setting when it was exactly, or was it something different that made it appearing to you? Or tell me more about that.
Well, that hustle or that grind in the first, let's call it first year of business, is give or take for different people, but let's just call it a year for conversation purposes, is actually a healthy part of the process. And I embraced it. But once you start hitting a stride, there's only so much you can do yourself, but that's just the productivity side of it. What about the emotional side of it, the psychological side of it? Like, who says you have to be a lonelypreneur in any space that you're in? Like, who says that's a good thing? I mean, I'm hearing different sides to this conversation. Like, you can do everything yourself, and it's going to be great without any people around you. And I push back on that. I think there's a power in teamwork, collaborative work, togetherness, even just the ideation components of making decisions benefit greatly from that. So I remember working with a handful of clients, and they started seeing tremendous results, double, triple, quadruple. Some were 10xing their previous metrics. And I thought, you know what? I can only handle so many clients if I'm going to be paying really good attention to them anyway. I'm sort of feeling stretched here. And I feel like it won't get better as far as enjoyment of the work as time goes on, unless I have a tribe, a team, a collective, a cohort of some kind. And then I started joining these business networking groups. That helped a little bit, maybe once a week, to check in and try to pass some value to each other. But I wanted something I could tap into on a daily basis if I needed to, for a few minutes or an hour, and connect. And I've just enjoyed getting to know people like yourself and others. And it's just a privilege to be part of a greater ecosystem.
We both believe that obviously marketing is much more powerful when it's aligned with purpose and in community's impact. You talk about this concept of togetherness. I think it's going to be something that we circle back on, but the implementation of technology obviously is going to be is huge nowadays. And it's sort of this, like you said, this sort of new age ways of thinking where actually you can just have 1,000 AI agents and then be alone and do everything yourself and so on, which again, there's definitely an emotional concept that you were just talking about, which I think is huge. But to begin with the togetherness and the community aspect, one thing I am in the Giver Marketing Network, and I was actually a much bigger part once in a while, but it's lovely, and I really think they're great people. The concept is very good. I'd love for you if you could tell the audience perhaps how does the network perhaps ensure that marketing do not lose its soul and perhaps keep this emotional tenderness and love perhaps towards each other and the people that we serve while still scaling results? Tell us more about the actual process of it, please.
Well, what you're describing is what technology cannot offer. And we all embrace technology. I mean, I was in a vehicle yesterday, and hundreds of years ago would be riding a horse. And we could only go so far with a horse before you started taking breaks. And technology is meant to facilitate the human experience, not the other way around.
Mm-hmm.
So ultimately, whether it's a typewriter to a computer, an abacus to a calculator, whatever the technology is, it doesn't matter what it is. It's meant to enhance the human experience. So if we lose our soul, lose our human experience, lose the emotional, psychological, and relational connection, where's the why? What happened? Well, you just became a productivity machine and you're treating yourself like a robot. So if you come to me with that approach, I'm out. I'm not interested. There's something much bigger, much bigger purpose, a greater mission. And so I get excited every time we talk, because you're thinking about networking, connecting, dialoguing, ideating, innovating. These type of things really, truly can't happen alone.
From a network perspective, when you're thinking about the process itself, the great thing I love with your network is really about, there's this great, I always said this, but to each their genius, right? And marketing, as much as it is one industry, it's a huge one. We can go on and on and on and on with different roles, perhaps within it. The great thing basically with what you've been able to tap into is really being able to build a dream team out of each other's geniuses without the sort of the hassle perhaps of having an agency, having basically a huge payroll, and building it perhaps from an outside in, I think is the right way the way that I personally sees it. Tell me, when you're thinking about it, from an AI perspective, I was just having this incredible conversation about specialization. I love to study the polymath of this world. Specialization for me is less interesting than people in which are able to do incredible things in different vehicles, right? Think Da Vinci, perhaps, which by far is the most popular. There's something exceptional about human beings where we don't denigrate it and detriment it to a productivity machine. There was this exceptional quote that I saw on LinkedIn. It was actually a female writer. I don't recall her name. So if you see this, God bless you. Is that I don't want AI to do the writing and creativity for me. I want the AI to be able to do my laundry and perhaps the cooking, so I can have more time to be creative. There's a huge difference. From you on a marketing perspective, let's just jump into the big AI topic right away. How beneficial it is. Let's just start quite wide. How beneficial it is. How are you currently using with the network AI, and where not to, perhaps? Let's just start there.
Recently working with a 9-figure business, and as I was having meetings with our team that we had built within 60 days. So you mentioned building marketing dream teams. That's what I do for a living. And it's interesting because as you're building these marketing, communication, media teams, if you just throw a recorder on the table and ask permission to go ahead and have a conversation, I took 100 pages of notes and turned it into a marketing plan within 14 minutes.
Yeah.
And that would have taken, well, you fill in the blank. Your audience is smart. That would have taken much, much, much longer, depending on how detailed you wanted to get in your marketing plan. But the point is it was a 10x, 100x multiple of time efficiency without losing the soul, because I'm sitting there poring over this and remembering the conversations, but the technology allowed me to not forget certain pieces, to include certain ingredients that maybe I wouldn't have been top of mind for me, but it was technically part of the emphasis that was given in the recorded and transcripted conversations. So to take literally hours and hours and hours and hours, pages and pages of notes, and turn it into one nice succinct document that we could all play from, the start to a playbook, a strategy, everything that you would ever want, and that I'm getting paid very well to do. And when you start adding $2, $3, $4 million a month to the top line revenue, based on some of these tools, you can start playing with concepts that will bring extreme efficiency to a company. And not only that, the whole team is now on the same page earlier. So now we have the ability to work together better. And it ultimately just helps everybody. Now, if I were to take somebody else's strategy and somebody else's company and try to copy that and bring that into our this very specific company that has a very specific brand promise, that could get a little hairy. So if you view it as a lazy making machine, you're in trouble. If you view it as an enhancement of your superpowers, you're in business. Like, things are good.
It's an amplifier, right? It's an amplifier. Just the way money is. It's a resource, and that's something that we want to be talking about. What technology cannot replace is the source. You are the source, my friend. The creator is you. The entity you're building. The AI is a tool to be able to help you get there faster, more efficiently, and perhaps save resources of all sorts. Talking about the source, fate is a huge component. That's actually, and I want my audience to know this. You played such a big role in my faith journey, huge role, and perhaps more than you might expect, indirectly, perhaps. Let's just put it this way. And obviously, you were a pastor. You might want to give a little bit of details there. But from your perspective and from my perspective also, leading with value is the absolute most important things by a large margin. And the reason why is because it's who you are. Integrity, your reputations, what you stand for, perhaps, is something in which can simply not be replaced. There's this interesting thing nowadays where I see that, and we see this with AI also. If you believing in everything is like saying you believe in nothing, and that's something to really keep in mind. If again you're not able to guard your values, unfortunately, that's it not only weakens your soul, I believe, but also it weakens the foundation of everything that you're doing to a point of potential collapse. But from your perspective, how would you say that your faith journey sort of shape your sort of this pivotal business decisions of funding a network like this that is, again, not just purely on skills, but on people in which holds values that are dear and shared?
Yeah, I think one thing to consider in a journey of working with people who have similar values or complementary values is what you're actually looking for in conversations is alignment. And that's a type of integrity that can structure your journey and keep it it keeps the integrity of your journey intact by finding alignment so that things are zipping together properly or overlapping properly. Ultimately, we don't necessarily need to agree on everything, but our values have to work well together. Like certain sounds work well together, like certain products work well together, like certain foods and drinks work well together. They have to have a complementary component. And my faith is something that I do lead with, but it's not the only thing I lead with.
Sure.
I lead with sort of a multifaceted. I am who I am. If we have any type of alignment, let's work on something that allows us to play to our strengths in that area or those areas, and let's make a huge impact. Ultimately, value is in the eye of the beholder. So it's not whether I value what I'm giving to you, it's what you're valuing in this experience or this journey or this road that we're on together. So a client, for example, I have one client, they value raw, like gritty, in the dirt kind of brand media.
Mm-hmm.
And they literally have told me this. I'm not going to mention the name because it's a national company and it's just not a good idea to mention the name in this particular story. But their statement to me is, we actually want to slow growth because we're growing so fast with the team that we put together, and partially due to your work here as well. We want to be truth tellers.
Mm-hmm.
We want to be a more clean and potent brand over time. And quite frankly, our sales are so astronomical, we're having a hard time keeping up. And what a great problem to have. Like, the revenue is there, the vision is there. We just have to keep it clean and
Right.
aligned and focused. And if we can't do that, we will lose potency and value to not only the client that I'm working with, but also to the end consumer at the end of the day. So it all trickles and it all comes back to value and whose perception is at play here, and making sure that we're not losing our way and trying to kind of change our alignment or change our purpose or mission while trying to work with others. It's, in my opinion, it's better to find those who are already walking a direction and you just walk with them. You don't change. You don't force anybody to do anything. You just start walking. And if you start seeing friends, then you do podcasts together and you do conversations together and you do projects together and you do things together that, whether you're living 2,000 years ago with Jesus or whether you're right now, you're still able to work together and do something together that's making the world a better place. It enhances the way God designed us. It's not, we're not trying to make anything up. We're trying to align with the grand creator and the grand story. It's not our world, it's his world. We're playing in it. We get the privilege of playing together in a sandbox.
Right.
And so this is where the faith and the perspective of life starts giving me an unfair advantage, gives you, Sam, an unfair perspective on life and work. For example, is work something we have to do or something we are privileged to do? That's it. That's a matter of faith. I view work as worship.
Mm-hmm.
It's a type of adoration and appreciation to the grand creator. It's not just me sweating my tail off trying to make something happen. No, I align with something much bigger. And so the faith is it's actually a fun ingredient. It's not,
It is.
it's not boring. If your faith is boring, you're in the wrong space. Like there's something wrong. Faith is so electric. What it's hard to even explain. It's like explaining what it feels like to jump into the deep end of a pool or a roaring river. Like you just gotta try it. It's not something you talk about. It's something you do together. It's so fun.
I think it is the most electric. Absolutely. It's so fundamental. I love this, what you just said. I think was beautiful. As a form of work as a form of workships. I'm a huge believer in work. I'm a huge believer that you should find your life works, because there's not many other things that really matters, to be very honest. The concept of being able to wake up every single day doing what you are meant to be is an exceptional thing. And talking about somebody that found his life works, I think that Steve Jobs put this extremely well. He said, have the courage to follow your heart and intuitions. They somehow already know what you truly want to become. And
go deeper. Yeah.
That is pretty good. That is pretty good. Tell me about, from your perspective, how does self-improvement is embedded with company improvement and company growth? How is those two things actually connected, and how can people take advantage of understanding that a company is not just a legal entity in which protects you? It's also something that is not only meaningful to your life, but perhaps those in which you serve.
So I'm raised in a capitalistic society. This informs my perspective. There are other perspectives on this. I wouldn't even view capitalism as a first principle. I think it's a principle. It's a perspective. It's not a universal truth.
Sure.
Even though there are some benefits, there are also some drawbacks. So the reason I answer this question in this way is a first principle may be I do work and I do reap a reward for my work.
Mm-hmm.
That's a first principle. But how you go about doing this can be very different in different societies, groups, and cultures. Ultimately, I do believe that there are some inherent design elements. You can call them DNA pieces that have been put into us that says we are built to expand. We are built to improve. We are built to innovate. We are built to grow. And there is time for rest, but ultimately there is a progress or a development that is inherently built. It's designed into us. And so when we get together and work on something, we're trying to produce something of value or expansion that will help others. Ultimately, will also help us as well, because when we offer something, there's usually an exchange of value that does happen at some point. The law of reciprocity is at play, but also the law of expansion. So these are all pieces that you talk about faith. These are all things that you really can't remove unless you have mental illness. You really can't remove these things altogether. Then you become like a robot or somebody who is sick in the mind or heart. And so when you talk about self-improvement, working with teams or clients or others and improving various aspects of a project, I think this is our calling. I think this is part of offering value and working well is to look for those opportunities for improvement. Self-improvement is a catalyst, but it is not the ultimate goal.
Agree.
Self-improvement is the mechanism by which we can bless others. As you know, bless ourselves, bless others, put the oxygen on yourself so you can help others and all those kind of things. For example, I have 5 kids. The moment I take something like scarcity mentality or imposter syndrome, and some of these are overanalyzed, but at the end of the day, anything like this where it's an obvious glaring deficiency, I want to improve in these areas because it will affect my kids, and now I have a grandkid. It will affect my kids and my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren. One of the most powerful questions I've ever been asked by a friend is, what will you do today that will affect the world 400 years from now?
Mm-hmm.
And you remember we talked about this a while back too, because it
Yes.
impacted me so much, Sam, that I had to bring it up in these conversations, and I bring it up periodically in broadcasts as well. But that question by Adam G. Fleming was phenomenal. And to this day, when we talk about the why and the vision and the future, and whether you're a futurist or whether you're more pragmatic in the present, either way, what are you doing now that affects the world generations from right now? What in a positive way? And so this idea of improvement, expanding, it's the reason capitalism works.
That's right.
It's because it's already inherently built in, and all capitalism did was harness that. Now we got to be careful not to hold capitalism up or improvement up as a god, because it's not.
Exactly.
That would be an idol or something that's sort of a false god, if you want to think of it that way.
Mm-hmm.
But to improve yourself is a blessing. It's godly. It's good. It's healthy to do so. I think every team should improve. I think every team should find a way to work better together and row. I remember going on a leadership training where I was rowing a boat in the ocean with one of my mentors, and we had others in the boat as well. And if we didn't work together, maybe we go in circles. Maybe we go the wrong direction. Maybe we don't go hardly anywhere. By the way, great movie, Boys in the Boat.
Okay.
Great movie. And it talks about this whole principle, Boys in the Boat. But yeah, interesting question, and I appreciate it.
Congratulations on the 5 kids, by the way. That's huge. That's huge. Shout out to them, as they will, I'm sure, see this
That's
somehow,
the legacy,
someday.
right?
That's their legacy. Exactly.
Kids and friends and family and people that you care about and people you spend time with and pour into their lives. This is legacy.
100%. I always come back to what King Solomon said. Every single man ought to do 3 things: plant a tree, write a book, and have a son. And because those are legacy, those are things in which, and obviously knock on wood, there's exceptions, tragedy happens, but they should outlast you, which is the beautiful things of life is not only replacement, but like you said, if we can not only replace but optimize to the process of a replacement, guess what? How good are we going to be? Perhaps further down the time, which is always another beautiful thought that I always keep in mind. Can I ask you a personal family question, Timothy?
Sure, I'm one of those open book type people. So yeah, that's fine.
Great. Obviously, you're very transparent about healing from personal trials, like the divorce you had, and obviously using them as fuel for purposeful leaderships. I had this quote of yours with me, which is, "I have lived a second chance. It's why I give others a platform to rise again," which I think was
quite interesting. That's you, by the way. Don't make this face. And
No, it's a blessing just hearing it again. Like, that's good. Okay, that's good.
it is, it's a great one. That's a great one. The how do personal trials perhaps inform your approach to leaderships, parenting, coaching? Because I see those as all in ones in a certain way, right? Those are all perhaps things in which you teach, you're taught, you again you get refined as a human being. Tell me, how does that work for you personally?
I think leadership is something that you may be born with in some ways, but if it's not developed well, you will never see the results of it. It's like a dormant gift or a dormant strength or something that you and I are both, we were both in the semi sort of amateur sports world for
Yes.
a little while. And when it comes down to sort of personal development, leadership, dealing with struggle, tragedy in life, I found that people pay more attention to how you handle difficulty than to what level of success you had last month or last year.
Okay.
They pay more attention to how you handle the actual tragedies in life. That brings more value and inspiration in most cases than maybe referencing somebody's billion-dollar exit or referencing somebody's grand achievement last year or inventing something. These are good. These are all good, and this is part of progress that we discussed earlier. But you're talking about the other side, the difficulty, the challenge, the tragedies. And I looked in the mirror after my divorce and I began asking myself, how did I contribute to this brokenness?
Mm.
How am I going to handle this? I had a choice to make. I could lean into my faith and friends, or I could pull away and hide. And the hallmark of someone who's developing in their leadership, they may be a moderately good leader or a great leader. That doesn't matter as much as the fact that they're developing in this area. Is what you choose when things are hard. The courage is the hallmark of a leader. It's the courage to do the things that don't feel comfortable. The courage to develop the areas that are weak. And really the main thing that prevents this courage is unhealthy ego. Fear of failure, fear of missing out on something else, fear of not understanding something or being embarrassed, or there are all these different major and minor categories of fear. But ultimately, ego sort of pulls the strings of these fear, the fear puppet. And it's not okay to live by somebody else's opinions or your own personal illusions of fear, because this will prevent personal development, leadership, which is really something that develops out of difficulty. I'll never forget Les Brown talking about the bamboo tree.
Okay.
It's one of his most famous talks. And he says it takes decades for the roots of a bamboo tree to develop, and it only takes a short time for the actual tree to come out of the ground. So you might see somebody as an overnight success or developed or very well, or they're an athlete that having a great season or rookies of the year or these kind of things. But what you don't see is the 10 years of dealing with highs and lows of life. That's what actually formed them into a superstar in their particular field of work. It's not what they did in the last 2 months. It's what they did in the last 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, sometimes longer. And so I think dealing with difficulty is the test of someone who's sort of on that path of learning and growing in leadership?
Yeah, I think a leader is the bravest man, right? I think that the leader, man, woman, obviously, there's bravery in leaderships. I think is those two things cannot be separate from each other. You mentioned the concept of overnight success. I want to dig deeper into that because we hear that everywhere. I think that I'm a big fan of art. Obviously, I know that you're quite a fan of contemporary art, if I'm not mistaken yourself. And look, I think Andy Warhol did a lot of bad thing for the arts industry. That's my opinion. But one thing that he was definitely right upon, and maybe even a visionary, actually certainly a visionary, in, is that we're gonna live in a world where everybody gets their 15 minutes of fame. He said that obviously just after completing his very famous Campbell Soup painting, which probably you and I can do. It's that average, just saying. But it's interesting because as attention is now, by a lot of people's basically accounts, the most expensive and lucrative perhaps currency. How do you manage? And that's a question I ask myself very often, and I'd like for you to answer this. How do you manage this urge, this ego again? Talking back with ego, Marcus Aurelius meditation, by the way, check it out. One of the greatest books of all time. Ego death, very important. But this ego that sort of pushes you to, I need more like, I need more comments, I need to be seen, I need to be in front of these stages, I need people to tell me how great I am. How do you pair that with the absolute and sheer hard work that it takes every single day to be able to, even one day, being able to actually being able to reap those rewards, like you said, that the bamboo example of a decade for the foundation and very, very quickly, basically the actual tree to grow. How do we balance these two things where attention and short-term growth is so glorified and long-term assets is less sexy, perhaps?
I think short-term growth is necessary for us to have the emotional fuel for the journey. I think long-term growth is built more around your why and your legacy.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want fuel, go get a quick win. That's fine. There's nothing inherently wrong with either one. I like to think in terms of, how am I learning from my past? How am I being present where I am right now? And then how am I thinking about and innovating toward the future? So past, present, and future. There's some people that lean into one or the other more than the others.
Oh, for sure.
So humans are a combination of their past, present, and future. They are known for their past, present, and future, and especially in their own thinking. And if we tend to be futurists or progressive people that innovate, you're going to have underdeveloped processes when it comes to learning how to be present and reflecting on the past. In other words, you'll go into your strength, which is your futurist mode.
Mm-hmm.
So then you want to put people around you who know how to reflect on the past and be present where they are. This will allow for a balancing effect. That's why anything significant in life happens with minimum 2 or 3 people. Minimum. And somebody might say, you're a self-made this, and you've done this by yourself, and you do this by yourself. Sam, when you started working with your company, Corecentrica was it's good with the founder, but it's better with the co-founder and the team and the salespeople that you're training and all the folks that you're responsible to kind of raise up. All the ships can rise with the tide if everything's put in place properly.
100%.
And when you do that, when we do that at Giver Marketing Network, and as we collaborate more like we're doing right now, this becomes special because the synergy allows for people who are very deep into the research and the reflective and the thoughtfulness of life bring to the table not only the technology that allows for deep research, but the perspective that understands how to process this. People who are really good at being in the present are the ones that are facilitating the team meetings.
Oh, yeah.
And they know what is happening in real time right now.
The doers.
They're doers, but they're very observant about what's happening in the nanoseconds, like right now.
Okay.
Really, really good athletes have an ability to be in the present and get in the zone. When I played baseball, and I remember batting against a professional baseball player from the Blue Jays.
Okay.
And I tell you, and I'm getting in a batting stance right now, just thinking about it. But you have to be in the zone to even be able to focus enough to get the bat on the ball, like to even play the game. At that level, you cannot be distracted. You have to be in the present. And really, that's what flow is. You're in the present to a maximum capacity. And then you have the futurists who, God bless them. There's a lot of us in the entrepreneurial world. Sometimes we get very easily distracted. But if we were not in the room, we would always be playing it safe.
Got it.
We would do what always worked because we're listening to the people who have brought the reflection and then being in the present as a core value and a core focus and a strength. And that's fine. But without the futurists, we don't make for new or innovative products or services or progress. So we want all three in the room.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you. Actually, I don't know if you recall this conversation. I think I was 18 at that time. It's been a few years, and I was talking about the concept of the way I was reading people through time. I always was of this opinion, and this concept that there's some the nostalgic typically talks in the past. Again, the doers, like you said, really are people that are in the present, and then the concept of the visionaries, as I like to call them, or futurists could be a great term also, talks in a future, right? We will, and so on. And even the verb tense for me is very important. When I talk to somebody, one thing that I always recall the most is which tense basically are you using with their verbs. So you're talking in the past, or you're talking in the present, or you're talking in the future. You get huge insight from that. But let's focus on the future for a little bit. There's huge innovation making waves. There's obviously AI. We talked a little bit about it, but I want to be focusing more about Web3 and sort of the future of ethical marketing, because you talk about that a lot. You've been embracing decentralized technology for a while now. I think you told me that you were one of the first investors in Bitcoin, correct?
Well, it was in the earlier days.
Early days.
And it's interesting because futurists are okay with, certain personalities are okay with taking higher risks.
Exactly.
And for every 9 that don't work out, we like to bring up the one that did. And for me, that's Bitcoin and some other things too. But ultimately, when we evaluate sort of our risk tolerance for innovation, blockchain technology is interesting because it has a front-leading expression in the form of money like Bitcoin or assets like Bitcoin. But it has a much broader reach. Like, for example, you mentioned art before.
Yes.
NFTs are provable art, tokenized art on the blockchain. And this is where the world of creative expression and art and who owns what pieces of these expressions it's changing dramatically right now.
Mm-hmm.
Even some of the digital, the videos and the imagery and the experiences people have digitally it's gonna be so mind blowing over the next 20, 30, 40 years. It's the art, the art we know. Like I have a Banksy replica on my wall right over here in the office,
Okay.
and I'm looking at it and I'm going, that is thought provoking. But the future of art is built on the blockchain. It's very much going to be recorded on the blockchain. There's companies right now that are using blockchain technology to make things more efficient, but they're also creating sort of a structure that is more effective. Airline tickets, movie tickets. These are all essentially going to become or already becoming NFTs. They're non-fungible tokens. They're digital tokens on the blockchain.
Yes.
Digital art or tokenized art on the blockchain. And so as we get into this world of blockchain sort of underpinning everything we do, and then you layer AI on top of that, now we're going to have this world of like, what is true? What is real?
Oh, that's where I was going, my friend.
What do I own versus what is somebody else's? How do I even own the property that I'm standing on? What, depending on what part of the world you're in, that's a very, very valid question. And it might be no matter where you are in the world. So how we own things, how we express ourselves, these are all being enhanced by these technologies and sort of solidified in a different way. So it sort of like reminds me of when the printing press and electricity
100%.
and flight and all these things started just changing the world so quickly, and sort of mass travel and transit, the combustion engine, like all these different things just really enhanced our ability to be productive, but also to have fun and enjoy certain aspects of life. So right now I'm looking for nonprofits that are in the art space because I'm giving away dozens of NFTs, just my way of supporting the nonprofit. And so I'm always looking for partners in that world to play with.
To me, I totally agree with you. I was rewatching The Social Network, which is one of the best modern movies, in my opinion. Actually, Tarantino think it's the best movies of 2010. That was surprising to me, but especially coming from him. But you know what? It's a great one. It's a great choice. And there is this great scene. They're doing a party, and the police is about to come because they're way too loud, obviously. And Sean Parker says that, think about this. We used to live on farms, then we lived in cities, but very soon we're going to live in the internet. And it was obviously 100% true, or 100% right. And it was visionary in that sorts. But now, and this is the incredible sort of next topic, is now we're already living in the internet, but we're going to live in a world now, a digital world that is so incredible at mimicking reality, or perhaps our understanding of it, that our ability to not only be able to perhaps perceive the differentiation into these two worlds, but the way they will be intertwining will be so close that maybe there is no reality, or perhaps reality as we understand it will be changed forever. Coming back to what Elon Musk said, right? We're living in a simulation. A lot of people believe such thing. Now, I don't believe it's what your belief. You just correct me if I'm wrong. But still, where does that lead us? Take me from, not only from a marketing perspective, but from a technology perspective. Take me in 2030, for example. What do you see the world of business being?
I'm very careful. I'm trying to be careful not to put myself in the place of the ultimate godlike figure. And you'll notice that when people gain lots of fame or fortune or influence of any kind, their mind starts going to a place where I can control a lot. And so therefore, I want to function not like a little god, but like a big God.
Yeah, they're playing God, 100%.
They're playing the big G God, not the reflection of God. They are trying to play God.
Sure.
And so I don't mind being the reflection. I don't want to claim to be like, it's one thing to claim to be the bright sun in the sky, but it's another thing to have a little bit of a reflection of the sun like the moon does, right? So I want to be more like the reflection. And when somebody starts saying, we're playing in a simulation and let me help you do this and let me help you do this and I can be your savior and we're going to take you to Mars and we're going to do these things. And I think that's fun. I just don't know that I would want to be the one making these statements too often, because we may find ourselves going into more of a simulation-like world. But to say that we're already in a simulation, it might be more of it might be more of a dynamic where the person saying that is a futurist. And so they're wanting us to be in a simulation.
Oh, for sure.
And so they're just saying we're in a simulation, and they're actually creating the world that they want by saying it. What truth is? Truth is first principles. It's truth statements that don't change over time. So have we always been in a simulation? No. Unless you define simulation very broadly, probably not. Will we end up in various forms of simulations? Yes.
Certainly.
Yes. Yes. Augmented reality, artificial intelligence, all the different technologies, and we're at just the beginning. I do a training on the five senses, and right now we're experiencing two of them. 15 years from now, we're going to be experiencing 4 or 5 of them.
Okay.
In the same dynamic. The podcast, you're going to be able to literally smell the cooking you have on your side of the screen in my room. You're going to be able to be chewing gum, and I can sort of experience this, the sights, the sounds, the smells, the taste, the touch. I can give you a high five through the screen because I have this special glove on that can actually feel what that would look like,
right.
Like. And because we're going into that level of technology, I think this idea of we're living in a simulation might better be phrased. We are going to be living in various types of simulations.
Okay.
It just is what it is. It's like trying to explain flight to somebody 400 years ago. Da Vinci is probably the only one who would have known that from an early age. There's not many others who would.
No, there's very few. No, 100%.
So maybe Elon's one of those people. He's just telling us the future.
It's interesting. It's interesting because it reminds me of Jim Rohn. Jim Rohn says that you don't see the world for what it is, you see the world for who you are. So this concept of projection of what he sees life as and therefore we see it as this is completely bonkers, but in his mind, that's who he is, and therefore that's the world that he's reflecting. I think there's a lot of wisdom in that. There's a lot of wisdom. There's something quite beautiful there. You mentioned AI. We talked a lot about this concept of integrity and value first. One thing that I want to talk to you about from a purely marketing perspective is automation. We are it's been a little bit, but we're definitely now in the era of automation to a point where, and I see this as a marketer, and I'm going to talk about us folks for a little while here. There's a difference between an automation which saves everybody's time. For example, a thank you note with some maybe personalized, basically outreaches when they complete a form on your site. That could be fantastic. And there's the other side of automation, which is a sea of sameness. Everything sounds the exact same, and therefore you lose all the novelty, which is a key component of marketing. And therefore, not only you lose the effectiveness, but I'm going to say it up front, you lose the credibility also because of such thing. And to me, I always come back to Theodore Roosevelt, which I think said, which is I think was exceptional as a human being. That's my opinion. But people don't care how much you know before they know how much you care. And I see right now in the marketing world that we get this twisted very, very, very rapidly. The first message is, hey, I know how to do this. You should hire me to do that. Obviously, we both know that doesn't work at all. But I would really love for you to tell me more about not only what you're doing with the Giver Marketing, but basically, obviously, the Giver Marketing Network, but also from all your experience in the marketing world. How can mission-driven brands still win with authentic community outreach? And how can they perhaps position themselves in a way in which they don't have the fear of missing out because this one guy tells them they can have an AI agent doing everything, and in keeping perhaps their strengths and their the validity perhaps in the concept that this the human and the community-centric method of growing a business is still what matters.
Yeah, I think the human element. I just watched a video by it was an interview with a gentleman named Anthpo.
Okay.
Anthpo.
I only know Ellen Poe, but Poe I do not.
They call him the Banksy of Gen Z.
Okay.
And he speaks about the aspects of marketing that the more the psychological aspects of marketing that really won't go away. And I won't do it justice. Just go look up the video. Anthpo, Anthpo, is his name. He's sort of one of those unique up and coming artists that has a marketing background. He used to work for Mr. Beast, and he's sort of coming into his own, and he does these experiences that catch millions and millions, sometimes 100 million plus eyeballs on what he does with very little traditional sort of ad spend techniques.
Sure.
It's very viral in nature, very human centric. It's very organic with a little bit of push kind of a thing. And those are so beautiful to watch, so amazing to watch. But the moment you pull out the human element or the ability for a small mistake or something to automate without precision, we will have what that does is it puts you at the bottom of the barrel as far as what you're viewed as in people's minds, hearts. And ultimately, we're vying for people's attentions, their hearts, their minds, in any aspect of our product, service, or offering. And so at the end of the day, you can do it, but think of it more as a short play or something you do to test something out, maybe pepper in some automation along the way. And if somebody finds it extremely valuable that you helped automate this process quickly, like a chatbot, for example, is a very good example of this.
Correct.
There's a lot of automation sort of built in. Now AI is layered on top of that. And so it becomes very intuitive based on a data set that makes sense. That's actually helpful to the end user.
Correct.
And so if it's helpful to both, then I say play and do it because it's helpful. It's an increase. If so, like some of the work you're doing based on data that is sort of incorporated into everything you do, it's perfectly positioned for our modern era. What you're doing is just amazing. And it's going to enhance the automation tools so much as opposed to just using automation because it's a little easier for me as the practitioner.
Right.
You can do that for a few months. It might help you out a little bit, but long term, it's not going to be beneficial for the customer unless you think through those lenses. So you got to make sure that it benefits both the end consumer, your audience, and also you, the practitioner. It has to benefit both.
I 100% agree. I think that the way I see it is that if the automation can do it as well as a human being can, then fantastic. Let's do it. But if you're degrading your level of quality just because automation saves you time, that's the risky territory. So I definitely I think it's a great.
I would say quality of experience.
Sure. Yeah.
So you said quality. To broaden the statement, I would just say if it can create the same or better quality of experience, then use it.
Yeah, exactly. No, 100%. I want to really discuss we spent the whole episode basically talking about this sort of these two worlds, the healing, the hustling, the building, but the community, the integrity portion of it, which is fantastic. But you and obviously we love neuroscience. That's what we do. We pretty much every single thing that we do is embedded basically with this. But you also brings deep emotional intelligence, and I want to say this as somebody that has seen you, that has grown with some of your advice and through you in many fashions. You're somebody in which I think is very in touch with the emotional intelligence side of his being, which I think is great. And you have a rare blend of heart and hustle. One of the very first messages that I saw from you is you were getting pitched all the time on LinkedIn because you're quite active, and you always respond to them, "Hey, mind if I give you some feedback on your messaging?" And what's very interesting is that we discussed the numbers of that campaign. They were amazing. The conversion rate was fantastic. So it was still beneficial on the hustle side, but again, so beautifully sort of in a heart opening of just, hey, let me help you, let me give you value first, and this might be that will beneficial me perhaps theoretically, which is what we want business wise. But still, I always thought that you were one of the very few that I know of that really is able to position itself very beautifully within this balance. I would love for you to give us a few of your advice on how do you give, perhaps what advice would you give to a heart-led entrepreneur who feel stuck between the healing and the hustling, will feel stuck between the two sides of his brain and his heart, how to harmonize that and how to understand that the synergy between the two of those is ultimately what creates sustainable growth.
I love digesting the content of Seth Godin and Rory Sutherland. Both of those gentlemen are in a different realm. They're the blend of those two, and of course, every voice has their nuances. But when you listen to, let's say, Simon Sinek, Seth Godin, and Rory Sutherland, and you have a few hours to just digest, or maybe have AI summarize some of the components, but you still want to sort of get the body language too, because it's communication is partially body language too. So if you can grab some of that content, you just can't help but look at that blend a little differently. It's almost like I'm not a coffee drinker, but for the coffee drinkers out there, it's how they describe coffee. It's like there's very specific nuances that actually make the experience. It's not just, oh, it's just coffee. No, there's different aspects to the experience that you have to analyze. Otherwise, you're probably not going to understand what's happening. And so when I look at sort of that balance of being this relationally intelligent or conversationalist, if you will, I call it a spiritual intelligence too sometimes, because you have to put yourself in other people's shoes and sort of bless people. You can bless people with direct truth, like, hey, are you open to feedback on your messaging? But you can also bless them with other kinds of questions. I would say one of the tips that I found from a book called Permission Marketing by Seth Godin is stay curious, ask questions. That's why people listen to podcasts like this, because there's good questions. it's not always the answers. It's the way the curiosity unfolds. It's the dialogue itself. It's not about one person's voice, even though that is important. The curiosity sets the foundation for what's happening in that experience. So, asking questions when you're starting conversations with people is probably the one thing I see is missing the most from campaigns, marketing activities. And I'm not even really the best at it. It's just, I just picked it up from other people and I try to incorporate it whenever I can.
Mm-hmm.
But without that, I would just be another guy who's peddling his stuff. I'm not approachable. I'm not curious. At that point, I'm not really interesting. Like there's nothing to sort of converse about. And questions are there. I did a study one time on Jesus. I ran all of Jesus' words through AI, and I said, how many of his words were in the form of a story or a question?
Oh boy.
What? I'm going to put you on the spot. You don't have to answer, but because you like to learn, tell me what you think was the approximate percentage of his words were either a story, a question, or a parable of some kind, something outside of the direct statement.
Oh yeah, no, it's okay. So it's for sure more than half. As somebody that reads his words, he's very metaphoric in his way of describing the world. I'd say 80%. I'll shoot for 80%.
I saw numbers from 52% to like 71%, somewhere in that range, depending on how you count certain phrases. But it was over 50%. So you get a check mark. Correct answer. When you have the greatest teacher of all time that sort of bolstered the best-selling book of all time, speaking metaphorically, allegorically, narrative, and through form of question, and sometimes sarcastic question.
Correct.
And sometimes sarcastic narratives. Like, are you guys whitewash walls? Or like he was making fun of people while he was asking questions. Like he knew what was happening, right? In the deepest parts of the heart and mind at that point. So if we can catch just a little bit of that curiosity, that narrative, that storytelling, that question asking, your questions are amazing. I love having these conversations. I look forward to it every time.
If you want better answer, ask better question. Perhaps. Timothy Morgan, it was an absolute pleasure to have you on the Meaningful Podcast. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom. Obviously, the love and joy of the conversation is shared, brother. You're so vulnerable, and you're so agile in the way you answer questions. I think again, this balance, coming back to the balance between the intellectually intelligent but the emotionally intelligent world, sort of colliding when you're giving an answer. It's always from the heart, and I learn a lot of you because of that. So thank you so much for being here, and I would love if you can leave our audience with some last words of wisdom, please.
Yeah, I think based on our conversation and just what comes to mind is don't do it alone. You might hear from a few people here and there that it's better alone. It might be a little easier at first by yourself, might be a little bit more comfortable, might be a little safer even alone for a little while. But if you're thinking long term, don't think in terms of I, me, or my. Think in terms of we. How can we impact the world? How can we generate revenue? How can we bless people? How can we help each other? How can we do these things that are value driven, like Sam was talking about? I would also say, don't let the failures define you. Let them develop you.
Thank you for spending your time with us today on the Meaningful Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review or share it with someone who could benefit from it. And always remember, your story matters. Make it meaningful. We hope to see you next time.